Hello there, Pittsburgh Steelers fans. Welcome to another episode of Steelers Friday Night Six Pack. I am your host, as always, Tony Defio, and I thank you for joining me on this lovely Friday night in Pittsburgh. And believe it or not, it is kind of lovely for December 16th as I'm doing this show. It's December 16th as we are live from Pittsburgh, PA. And as we happen to be right now in the world, whether it's live watching me somewhere else or somewhere days later listening to me on an audio platform of your choosing, I hope it's lovely there too for December whenever. And continue with tonight's show. As always, I would like to ask you to like and subscribe to our Behind the Steel Curtain YouTube channel. We bring you live shows each and every day and night. We have this show, of course. Earlier on Friday, we had the Touchdown Under show, Mark Davison and Matty Peverall, the blokes from Australia, giving you take on the Panthers. Every Monday at 5-ish, we have The Hangover with Brian Anthony Davis and Shannon White and yours truly. Tuesday, we have the Scobro Show, Tuesday evening, with Dave Schofield and Rich Schofield. Wednesday, we have Know Your Enemy with Jeffrey Benedict and Shannon. Thursday, we have the very popular Steelers Preview with Jeff Hartman, Dave, and Brian. We have the State of the Steelers with Daniel J. We have We Run the North with Kevin Tate and his gang. They discuss all things AFC North related. And, of course, you can catch all those live shows on Facebook Live. So if you're watching me on Facebook right now, you know that. As I always ask you to do, please keep the comments civil. It's Facebook. It's hard to do. I realize that. But please keep it civil. For me, it's the holidays. And, of course, you can catch all those live shows after the fact on any audio platform of your choosing. I like iHeartRadio, but anywhere you can find podcasts, you can find Behind Steel Curtains podcasting family. And we have also audio-only original podcasts, including Bad Language with Brian Anthony Davis, From the Cutting Room Floor with Jeffrey Benedict, The War Room with Matty Peverall, What Ian's Talking About with Kyle Kreis, A Steelers Fix with Jeremy Pilbar, Let's Ride with Jeff Hartman. We have Stat Geek with Dave Schofield. We have Bad Language with Brian. The Go Show with Brian and Kevin Smith, the very knowledgeable Kevin Smith. So please check those shows out. And again, you can catch them on any audio platform. And of course, check out Behind the Steel Curtain, the editorial side. We bring you news, we bring you commentary, film breakdown. Anytime there's a story of any kind, they get it up for you. So please check it out. It's your one-stop shop for all your Steelers needs. And let's chat tonight. And so far, we have first one in with Daredevil, and he wins one tonight. He's the first one in the building. Craig Lawson joins us from Facebook. Steeler Chick 46. George Hoop, who says my feed is not good right now. That was 3 minutes ago, so hopefully it's gotten better. How you guys doing? Mary Elena is with us tonight. Ron Schultz from Facebook. So welcome aboard, gang. And let's hope that my feed is okay. So let's start things off by talking about last week's game, that annoying, very annoying loss to the Ravens at Acrisure Stadium. The loss dropped Pittsburgh 5-0. It was a game that really, they could have won. It was your typical loss at home to the Ravens, where it felt like they got away with something. they got away like a heel wrestler would get away with their title intact, even though they got dominated the whole game. Not that the Ravens got dominated, but Pittsburgh really, Mitch Trubisky came in for an injured Kenny Pickett in the game, and Pickett had to leave with concussion symptoms. He suffered a a sack early in the game where he smacked the back head. He was initially cleared to come back in after being examined, and then it was determined that symptoms arose after that, and he was ruled out for the remainder of the game. Trubisky came in, and really, I mean, to be fair, the offense looked better. They moved. Then I shouldn't say looked better. The offense looked good with him in there, and they moved earlier when he came in for a concussed Kenny Pickett. He made some fantastic throws. Once they got in the red zone or close to the red zone, he made critical mistakes, 3 interceptions, where 2 of them came in the first half, late in the first half, when it looked like Pittsburgh was about to take control of the game. They fell behind 10-0 early. They got to within 10-7, and just when it looked like they were about to take control of the game, Trubisky threw an interception to Roquan Smith. He made a great play over the middle. He was trying to hit Pat Freiermuth over the middle. We talked a lot about them utilizing the middle of the field, and ironically enough, they do that in this instance, and it gets picked off and kills the drive. And, of course, the Ravens marched down the field after that and kicked the field goal to make it 13-7. But fear not, because the Steelers, at the end of the first half, did exactly the same thing. They marched down the field. Trubisky looked awesome. He looked crisp. He looked sharp. And what happens? He gets picked off by Patrick Queen over the middle, trying to hit Pat Freiermuth with seconds left in the first half. And Pittsburgh got nothing out of that drive. It's 13-7 at halftime. And then, of course, early in the third quarter, they're driving again, and Trubisky tries for a bomb, a deep ball to the ever elusive Deontay Johnson. When I say ever elusive, I mean in terms of finding him in the end zone for a touchdown. It gets picked off rather easily, and that kills another drive. The Ravens ultimately made it 16-7 late in the game after a Chris Boswell field goal got blocked by Calais Campbell, a rarity for Boswell to have a kick block. I mean, for any kicker, but we're so used to Boswell coming in and just being automatic. And did he miss kick? If it wasn't blocked, he probably would have made it. But and it wasn't his fault at all. But to see a missed kick from Boswell, it's just so rare. And of course, the Ravens turned around and marched they took eight minutes off the clock. And of course, Justin Tucker, who never misses ever, it would seem anyway, they kick a field goal with 3 minutes and 19 seconds left. It's looking pretty bleak, but to their credit, the offense came back and quickly, with the help of some penalties, they quickly got back into the game when Trubisky hit Freiermuth for I think it was a 10-yard touchdown with 2:30 left. And at that moment, Pittsburgh had 2 timeouts left. They had a 2-minute warning at their disposal. You just wanted that defense to go back one last time for the offense to at least give Boswell a chance to win the game in the finals. Apologize again. This audio thing every week is really annoying me. I'm not doing anything on my end, but I look up and I'm muted, and it's really annoying, and it's getting on my nerves, and I apologize. So yes, was a problem. Thank you for letting me know, Ron Schultz. Anyway, to get back to the game last week, you needed the defense to stop the Ravens one time and get the ball back and give the offense ample time to perhaps win the game. And you knew the Ravens, who were down to their third string quarterback at that point, Anthony Brown, you knew they were not going to run the ball. Or I'm sorry, they were not going to pass the ball. They ran it 3 straight times, easily picked up the first down. Ravens ran out the clock, and Pittsburgh's 5-8. And it was really, really frustrating day. And not just because Mr. Trubisky threw 3 picks. That was really frustrating, because I'd say they probably left anywhere between 10 and 21 points on the field in that game. But it was annoying because the defense, knowing that the Ravens came into the game with their second string quarterback to begin with, and were down to their third string quarterback pretty early, you knew they were going to be it was going to be a run heavy day for them. And what did they do? They rushed for 15 yards. The defensive line just got dominated. The front seven got dominated in the trenches. It was just a sad sight to see. This one great front seven, see it get manhandled by the Ravens offensive line all game long, really. I mean, it was all game long. That was frustrating. It was sad. And it's something that has to be addressed moving forward. And I've been on this soapbox all season about the defense. Collectively as a fan base, we are too forgiving of the defense. We're always hard. We're never shy about being critical of the offense. I mean, the offense can go 50 points in the game, but if they turn the ball over at a critical moment, or if there's a bad play call at a critical moment and it costs them the game, then we're all over the offense and fire the coordinator. The quarterback sucks. This guy dropped the ball. Get rid of Rashard Mendenhall for that fumble, right? All that kind of thing. But if the defense gives up 16 points, it doesn't matter what else happens. If the defense gives up 16 points, it did enough to win. But if you watch that game on Sunday, just like if you watch the Patriots game and several other games this year, regardless of how many points they gave up in those aforementioned games, the defense failed the team, right? I mean, 215 yards, you allow the Ravens to control the tempo of the game, especially in the second half. You failed to get the ball back for the defense or for the offense one time. The defense, again, deserves just as much blame for that game as the offense. You can't just look big picture on one side of the ball, the other. If you're not going to look big picture when the team scores 40 points, then you shouldn't look big picture when the team gives up 16 points. Not that we know what 40 points looks like anymore, but you get the drift. It was like that in the past. If the offense, when there was a much more explosive offense, and we were so critical of the calls and certain plays, if they cost the team the game. So we need to do the same thing with the defense, regardless of total. If you're allowing your opponent to impose its will on you on the ground, when darn right well, if you took the runaway, they weren't going to be able to hurt you all that much with the pass because they were down to their backup quarterbacks. Then you have to own that as a defense and say, we did not do enough to win this game. So that's my rant about last week's game. It was sad. It was annoying. And the frustrating part, as I talked about last week, is, you knew if they could win this game, if they could just win this game to improve, quote unquote, to 6-7, then they'd be in a pretty good spot as far as at least getting, having a decent chance of going on a run down the stretch and being in the playoff hunt, like really being in it, not just, hoping they were in it, but like legitimately being in the race with a month to go. Because, the Jets lost, which was predicted. Yeah, the Patriots won, the Chargers won. but still, you're only you would only been a game back of 3 teams with a month to go, and anything can happen with a month to go. Instead, you're still 2-3 different teams. Your conference record is atrocious, 2-6. You can't get any better than 5-6 in that category down the stretch. You're already down to the Jets and the Patriots, so your margin for error is zilch. I heard it was between 1% and 4% chance of making the playoffs at this point if you win out. And really, what are we talking about playoffs for anyway? Because they're not that good of a team. I mean, it's nice. It would be nice for it to happen because I'm always for that. As I said last week, give me playoff talk this time of year over rebuilding talk and draft, especially draft talk. Gosh, we're going to talk about the draft enough as it is between the end of the year and the time the draft comes around at the end of April. I don't need an extra month or 2 of it. So that's another reason why I wanted him to go on. Remember, if we're being realistic, not a very good team. They need a lot of work. Of course, they need to figure out their defensive line. I think maybe that might be one of their top priorities going into next year. Even more so than the offensive line, I think the offensive line has made some improvements. I know it's not a popular thing to say. I'm not ruling out that they go out and get a starting left tackle or whatever, right tackle, whatever. I'm not ruling that out, but I'd say at this point, maybe you might need to focus on the defensive line. Because as Jeffrey Benedict pointed out months ago, a lot of the problem with this, with the front seven, especially starting last year against the lines just being dominated. This unit used to be a strength. You would have obviously Cam Hayward, Stephon Tuitt, Tyson Alualu, Javon Hargrave. I mean, it was a very talented and deep and productive unit for them, and it's just not that way anymore. Hayward's getting older. Ogunjobi's, he's a pretty good player, but I think he's been dealing with injuries this year, and I think it's really affected his season. Chris Wormley, he's been a okay veteran. Now he's out. He's hurt. He's done for the year. DeMarvin Leal is a nice prospect, but he's been hurt and he's back, but you still don't know what you really have in him yet. You like the potential, and he certainly showed us a lot before he got hurt and was placed on IR for a month, but we still don't know what we have in him if you're the Steelers. So that unit might need a lot more focus than we originally thought. I think people were focusing on the offensive line and maybe the secondary, but I think maybe you have to give the D-line some attention in this upcoming draft. So, all right. Let's get into my next topic. And what is my next topic? My next topic is Mike Tomlin. He's sitting on the cusp for the first time in 9 years, really, of his first losing season as a head coach. And the question is, with 4 games to go and no margin for error, will he defy the odds again and find a way to have a 16th, would it be 16? Yeah, a 16th straight non-losing season. I am intrigued to find out, because whether he has a losing season or not, it doesn't affect anything other than, they might have a better draft pick. But I think it's going to be funny to see what happens if he does have another non-losing season. People are going to be mad about it. And will they be mad for the right reasons? Are they going to be mad because it gives them a lower draft pick and lower draft status in each round? Or are they going to be mad because they think it's like something that he cherishes and the fans cherish? And I don't know. I don't think it's anything that anybody really cherishes, to be quite frank. And I know Mike Tomlin said it himself when he was on the Ryan Clark Pivot podcast back in the summer. He said, "Look, I don't really think about that. I don't seek comfort, if you will, in that streak. My only concern is a championship, and if any season that ends short of that is a failure to me. That's what he said. Go back and watch it. He said it. So he's not really sharing it, at least not outwardly. As far as the fans, yeah, they do use it in arguments in debates about Tomlin and his coaching prowess, but that's really because, I mean, the guy's been under fire from his detractors, really, probably since about 2011, 2012, which to me was a little bit too early, questioning whether or not Tomlin deserved coach of the team after what they had accomplished over his first 4 or 5 years. Now, if you want to be critical of him now, of course, go right ahead. But if you're wondering why people are always using the no losing seasons argument to defend Tomlin, it's because, first of all, I think people have been too critical of Tomlin over the last decade or so. And number two, it seems like his detractors are mocking this seasons. Like, oh, like, all right. As I said to somebody the other day, I never understood why that was a bone of contention with fans. His record of non-losing seasons, because guess what? It's hard. I don't have a record. Maybe, right? And at the very least, you should be striving to have a winning record. And at least that part of his program has been okay during the course of his career. So why that's been a criticism of his, I don't know, other than people just like to be disagreeable. So, all right. Let's see where we're at here time-wise. We're at the 23-minute mark. I think I'm going to take this time now to allow you to hear a word from our sponsors if you're listening to me on the audio side. I'll be back in a bit. Don't go anywhere. And welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to yet another episode or the second part, I should say, of Steelers Friday Night Six Pack with your host, Tony Defio. In the first half of the show, I talked about I reviewed the Ravens loss, or the loss to the Ravens last Sunday, and I also talked about Mike Tomlin's streak of non-losing seasons being in jeopardy. The Steelers are 5-8 with 4 games to go. And I just think it'd be funny, again, whether they finish 8-9 or 9-8 or 7-10 is really not that much of a difference to me. But it would be funny to see them finish 9-8 just to make people's heads explode for some reason, So actually, I think 9-8 in the first year without Ben Roethlisberger as your quarterback would be an accomplishment, especially when you consider it would be a bounce back from being 2-6. So, and 5-8, which is, a pretty bad record in and of itself. So, all right, the title entered the discussion. Believe it or not, after last Sunday's performance by Mitch Trubisky, and with Kenny Pickett likely being out this Sunday against the Panthers at Friday, the fans have finally come around, at least a lot of them, and now they want Mason Rudolph to start the game against the Panthers. And what did it take for Mason Rudolph to finally feel the love of the fans? Mitch Trubisky's struggles, at least as far as turning the ball over. And I kind of figured this would happen in the first year without Ben Roethlisberger as the quarterback. Obviously, once Kenny Pickett became the starter, there would be no controversy. There would be no debate. But without Pickett in there, if he's injured or if you didn't have a Kenny Pickett, if Pittsburgh decided not to draft the quarterback number 1 this year, and you had Trubisky, Rudolph, and some third stringer, there was always going to be a debate. There was always going to be a controversy involving the quarterback situation. That's when you don't have the person you think is your future yet. And now that Pickett's out, Rudolph is getting love because the fans are sick of Trubisky, just like they were sick of Rudolph through last Sunday because they had seen enough of him over his first 3 years filling in as the starter in place of Ben. They had decided they had seen enough from him, and they were ready to move on. So they moved on to Trubisky and Pickett. Pickett again is untouchable, but Trubisky is not. And now they've decided that Trubisky is not the answer. So they want to go back to Rudolph. And I'm here for it. I want to see it. Part of me wants to see it. Logically, it makes no sense. It makes no sense to bring in Rudolph at this point. He's a lame duck player as far as his future with the team. He's a free agent after this year. He's not going to resign here, right? He knows he has no future here as a starter. He still wants to be a starter. He still has aspirations to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. Whether he ever gets there or not, who knows? But I'm sure he wants to find out once and for all if he can be the starter somewhere where he's not in the shadow of a legend, right? So logistically and logically, it makes no sense to put Rudolph in there because number one, if they were 8-5, right? If they were 8-5 and they were fighting for a playoff spot or even a division title, then yes, I say let's see what Rudolph can do, right? That would be legit because you're just trying to win every game, and try to get into the playoffs. But right now at 5-8, you're not going anywhere, presumably. It doesn't look like anyway. So why would you yank out your veteran backup, who's a captain on the team, by the way? You've already demoted him from starter to backup. Demote him again from backup to third stringer. He still has one more year under contract, right? You might need him next year to be your backup. Now, if you decide to cut ties with him, or if he decides he wants to be traded or released, it's not going to cost you a whole lot financially, from what I understand. I'm no cap expert, I'm no contract expert, but from what I've read, it won't kill their cap next year if they decide on from Trubisky. But you know how it goes. You might have to rely on him next year. So why would you further damage that relationship? It seems to be damaged already between Tomlin and Trubisky. He seems to be in Tomlin's doghouse, meaning Trubisky. Why would you damage that relationship? Why would you diminish the respect that he has in that locker room by making him a third stringer just to see if you can win an extra game or two down the stretch? It just doesn't make any sense. Furthermore, what if Rudolph goes in there and just plays lights out over the last month of the year? Then you're going to have people wondering, maybe he is be the future, maybe the future. Maybe Pickett's not the for all. Certainly isn't Trubisky, right? Maybe they made a mistake. Maybe they need to bring Rudolph back and have him as a future. That's what people are going to start thinking. If Rudolph comes in and plays really, really, really well over the last 4 games, history doesn't suggest that can happen, but you never know. Sports is a crazy world, and we've seen crazier things than that. So you're really by putting Rudolph in the mix, you're potentially really causing a full-blown quarterback controversy. And why would you want that if you're Mike Tomlin? That said, I still want to see it because it would just be too delicious of a story. Mason Rudolph go from this guy that was irrationally hated. Like the hatred that people had for the guy seemed to be almost just absurd, to see him go from that to this hero, this fan favorite, a potential savior of the franchise in a matter of a month would be just fantastic. And I'd get so much material out of it. It would just be, I'm just picturing it. I want to see it happen. So logically, it makes zero sense. But from an entertainment standpoint, from a writing standpoint, from a podcasting standpoint, from a debate standpoint, give it to me. So from what I heard on Friday, it seems like they're hinting towards Trubisky being the starter this Sunday. But it doesn't mean that just because he starts that game that he'll finish the game. We saw earlier in the year how eager Pickett Tomlin was to get Trubisky out of there and create a spark by putting Pickett in there, maybe earlier than he thought he could. My point with that is Mike Tomlin, like a lot of head coaches, is only worried about the regardless of how it might affect the game. And he might decide to do whatever it takes to accomplish that. So I wouldn't put it past Tomlin to yank Trubisky if he's struggling again like he did. He didn't really struggle against the Ravens, but he did make some key turnovers. It wouldn't shock me one bit if he decided to yank Trubisky and put Rudolph in there, and that could really muddy the waters moving forward. So I'm going to be paying close attention to that this Sunday because it doesn't look like Pickett's going to play. If you're listed as doubtful right now, and all that we know is concussions, and it's his second one of the year, he's your franchise, he's your future, meaning Pickett. I think you have to play it safe. So it wouldn't shock me if Trubisky started, but it also wouldn't shock me if he got yanked in the middle of the game in favor of Rudolph. To what end would Tomlin do that? Is he worried about anything beyond next Sunday? Probably not. And that's why he would do it. So those are my thoughts for tonight. And I will close out the show as I always do. And take some questions and highlight some comments, and let's see what we got. And we're starting out with fire right now with George, and he says, let's see here, trade Tomlin and Pickett to Panthers for the next 3 years, first and second round picks. That's assuming that the Panthers would be willing to give up that much in draft picks. I almost said the C word. I don't like the C word, by the way, when it comes to the draft. I hate that word. And just so we're clear, I don't mean a 4-letter word. Let's just say it rhymes with crapital. Draft crapital. I hate that word. But that's a lot of draft picks. A lot of premium draft picks to give up for maybe for a head coach like Tomlin, but Pickett, he's such an unknown. Why would they give up three first and second round picks for that? The Panthers to the Steelers, because Tepper's from Pittsburgh. I believe he was a minority owner for the Steelers at one point. So Thompson says Mason for president. I think he's a little bit too young right now to run for president, but you never know. It's a crazy world. This is about Trubisky, and let me get this up here. And he says, new inventions. If you are saying Trubisky is timid, then you would be correct, but none of it matters. Tomlin and Canada are still in the picture. I don't even think they should be allowed to watch the game. Well, that's Jay from Facebook, but I don't know if Trubisky's timid, because he certainly didn't play timid last week. I think he was timid earlier in the year when he was a starter, but I think he was doing that under duress, under orders. I think the last 2 times we've seen Trubisky against the Bucs and against the Ravens, he looked more aggressive, and that might have been why he came up with 3 picks the other day. And for George Hoover, again, and he says, I could totally see the Steelers trading Trubisky to the Giants for a 4th-round pick. That would have to be in the offseason. They're past the trade deadline, but you never know. I mean, if they're charging somewhere, Trubisky might want to move on. This is another from George Hoover. And he says, mark my words, Pickett and Tomlin will be gone in 2023. New head coach will want a new quarterback. They'll both be in Carolina in 2023. If Pickett is here, then I bet they draft a rookie quarterback as well. 2nd-round pick. They are not going to trade Kenny Pickett. They might trade Tomlin. Who knows? But they're not going to trade Kenny Pickett. And I doubt they're going to trade Mike Tomlin. Let's see what else we have here. Yes, I guess I'm back to the point where, let's see, let's move down here. And it's one from George. George is very active tonight, by the way. George Hoover is really the MVP of tonight's show. And he says, Mike Florio made mention of Dave Tepper really wanting Tomlin in Carolina. They need and will be looking for a head coach. This could be the story of the offseason in the NFL. I mean, that's easy for Mike Florio to make that connection because Tepper is from Pittsburgh. And he has a building named after him here, CMU building. And again, he was a former owner of Pittsburgh. Heard that Pittsburgh is eager to extend Tomlin this year, so before next year. So I don't see it happening. But I know it would be celebrating if they did do that. What else we have here? Jada Delete says, I'm pulling for Mason. Let's finish the year off without any more long-term injuries. That's a good point. That's one thing that's been under discussed is some of these injuries as of late, especially Chris Wormley going out. That paved the way more playing time for Leal and Loudermilk. Let's see once and for all what they have in this guy. Right now, it doesn't look like a whole heck of a lot, to be honest with you. It seemed like he was trending up coming into the season based off his rookie year, but he really has not progressed. And if you remember back to that 2021 NFL draft, he was a very controversial pick. They traded a future draft pick to move up in the 5th round to get him out of what was Wisconsin, was it? So yeah, I was hoping to see more from Loudermilk this year, and it seems like he's regressed. I mean, not too many other people are contributing, so I'm going to keep going back to George Hoover. And he says, take into account that Rudolph and Mitch will be gone, so I think the Steelers will be drafting another quarterback to back up Pickett or to replace Pickett. Look at what happened to Josh Rosen. Yeah, but Josh Rosen, a lot of his issue was his attitude. You heard that coming into the pros, coming out of UCLA, that he had a bad attitude. I don't see them. Well, obviously Rudolph's going to be gone, but you don't know with Trubisky. I mean, we're assuming that he's going to be gone, but if they're looking for a veteran backup next year, behind Pickett, I mean, Trubisky's okay. I mean, I think it's hard to find a better backup quarterback than talented. He can move. He just had those 3 costly mistakes the other day, and they were 3 big mistakes, but he's not a totally useless quarterback. So provided he's willing to come back here next year, I see no problem with Trubisky being the backup. And a Steeler Chick 40, Trubisky is still under contract for next year. So they would have to cut him, or he would have to ask for his release or to be traded. And I mean, I could see that part happening, the second part, because if he's angry about his treatment this year, if he wants to go somewhere where he thinks he can compete for a starting job, then But as far as his abilities as a backup, I think he's okay. I think he's okay. You're not going to get much better than him as your backup quarterback in today's NFL. And this one from the CUDA 70. Canada does not want Mason to play. Remember, he was a quarterback coach when he came here and does not like Mason. Well, that's just speculation. I don't think anybody knows that for sure. We know Ben didn't like Mason. That's definitely not a secret. And I think the feeling's mutual. But we don't know about Canada. And this one's from Unhexable. Let's be real here. Rudolph and Mitch are out of here we go, out of the picture next year. So it's time to start thinking about drafting another quarterback. No, you know what? The model for when you have somebody like Pickett, a young guy, a rookie, the model is to have a veteran as a backup. So it's not time for them to start thinking about drafting another quarterback. It's time for them to have a quality veteran behind him, or at least a reliable veteran behind him. And I think Trubisky's a reliable veteran. He's not he's probably not a great long-term starting quarterback in today's NFL, but he's okay. He's talented. He's okay. You're not going to do much better than Trubisky. Now, if he does go, if he is out of here next year, they're just going to bring another veteran in, and he's probably not going to be much better. He's probably going to frustrate you because backups are limited for a reason. They're backups for a reason. Now, if you're talking about drafting a guy to be the third stringer, yeah, okay, but it's probably going to be somebody in a 6-7 like Oladokin was this year. They're not already going to bring in they're not going to spend a second or a third round pick on a backup quarterback after drafting Pickett last year. It's just not going to happen. This one is from John and Will Court from Facebook, and he says Mason is the best of the three with the deep pass. If the game plan versus the Panthers is run heavy and play action, then he makes sense. If it's more dink and dunk, then Trubisky is a better fit. That's a good point. Actually, that's a good point. I like that. All right. What else we have here? This one is from the Tribe. This is a pretty random quote, but it's spot on. Burrow, meaning Joe Burrow, the Bengals quarterback, has that it factor. I could see the Bengals going back to the Super Bowl. I think that's what he means. He says going back, but I think he means to the Super Bowl. I do know one thing. I don't know about the Super Bowl this year. He definitely had that it factor. I said it factor. The it factor. And I said this during the game last week. I said, Kenny Pickett better be good. He better be a stud, because if not, Joe Burrow could Tom Brady the AFC North for the next 10 years, meaning dominate the division like Brady did the AFC for however many years. So Joe Burrow is the real deal, and he's going to be here for a long time. And unless the Bengals really screw things up as far as their relationship with him, he's going to be their quarterback for as long as, say, Ken Anderson was their quarterback, a long time. So Pittsburgh better find the answer at quarterback sooner rather than later, whether it's Kenny Pickett or somebody else. They better find the answer. So let's all hope that Kenny Pickett is the guy, because they're going to give him the chance for these next 2+ years to prove it. So, the quicker they find that guy, the quicker they're going to be able to keep up with Joe Burrow and the Bengals, because I think they're here to stay. I don't know about Lamar. I mean, his contract situation is in quite the flux, if that's the right word. And he might not even be here next year, meaning Baltimore. As far as Cleveland, who knows? But, Deshaun Watson, he's under contract for a number of years, but who knows what's going to happen with him and them. But Joe Burrow is definitely here to stay. The CUDA 70 says, I wish Tomlin would tell us who is going to start. I hate this drama. Well, I mean, I think it's a lot of it's gamesmanship, but a lot of it is maybe they don't know yet. Maybe they're still holding out hope that Pickett will clear the protocol on Saturday. I doubt it, but that could be it too. All right. And I'm going to highlight George again, tonight's MVP, the player of the game, the guy who's going to get the gold watch at the end of the game. Not from me, but hopefully from somebody else. And he says, this is exactly why the Steelers need a huge regime change, meaning Burrow, at head coach and down. Pittsburgh needs a head coach who will develop a great coaching tree, unlike Tomlin. I don't know. People are so obsessed with the coaching tree, but if you look at Bill Belichick, his coaching tree, it's pretty bare. I mean, I shouldn't say bare. He's produced a lot of fruit. He sent a lot of fruit out to the other teams in the NFL, but they really haven't enjoyed the taste of that fruit. So the coaching tree thing is I think it's overrated. I think it's something that people, it's a weird thing that people focus on. But I will say this, you know, I was talking to a friend of mine on Thursday, a longtime fan, and he said, I don't really enjoy going to the games anymore. It's not a burning desire. And I've been feeling that way for a while. And like I said, coming into this year, it's almost like something needs to be shook up. And I thought the quarterback thing would do it, but maybe like they need a whole new direction. Who knows? Maybe it's time for a regime change. It's not going to happen, but maybe that's what, you know, what will send them in a different direction as a new head coach. But I hate saying that too, because I don't think they're going to make that kind of move. I think Tomlin deserves a few years beyond Ben Roethlisberger to get this thing turned around. The problem is we don't have the patience for it. And yes, you know, there's a 3 playoff wins in 12 years thing, soon to be 3 in 13 years. So it's not just a recent thing, but there were a lot of things with the last decade that were hard for them to overcome. You know, injuries at the wrong time, having a quarterback that took up so much of the salary, drafting in the 20s all the time because you had a quarterback good enough to get you winning records. You know, so there's a lot that held them back as far as being able to rebuild the entire roster over the past 10 years. So maybe now moving forward, we should give Tomlin the time to rebuild this roster and build his team up again. Like Cowher had. He had that opportunity in the late 90s when they missed the playoffs 3 years in a row. He rebuilt the roster. They had a lot of premium draft picks, a lot of high draft picks, and they were a contender again. You know, so yes, things feel stale, and yes, you can make an argument that they need an entire regime change, but I'm not willing to go there quite yet. I think we have to wait a couple more years and see what happens. A new quarterback, a new GM, a new GM assistant, that kind of thing. So on that note, I think I'm going to bid you all adieu. Check back this weekend to Behind the Steel Curtain. We bring you all the news, any breaking stories, any injury updates involving Kenny Pickett, who the starting quarterback's going to be between Trubisky and Rudolph. If it's not Pickett, check the post-game show. Check Sunday morning for the staff predictions on the game. So please keep checking back and enjoy that game on Sunday. And, you know, until I talk to you again, of course, as always, go Steelers. Take care, everybody.
Stop and check 'em out.